A major clean-up operation continues at Letterkenny General Hospital in County Donegal this morning following the flooding of several sections of that hospital last Friday. The hospital remains closed to all visitors, with emergency admissions being diverted to Sligo, which is 75 miles away, and Derry 25 miles away. Now, the HSE says it expects that these contingency arrangements will be in place for the coming weeks, but the Irish Association for Emergency Medicine says this time frame could well be considerably longer. Mr. Fergal Hickey is a consultant in emergency medicine at Sligo Regional Hospital, and he's also a spokesman for the Irish Association of Emergency Medicine. Good morning.
Good morning, Rachel.
How will you describe the situation for us?
Well, basically, flood damage has damaged the emergency department, but also has damaged much of the necessary supporting infrastructure for an emergency department. So the radiology department is out of commission, the kitchens and large sections of the hospital. Was built in 3 stages, but much of 2 stages of the hospital construction has been damaged, and there's damage to the 3rd. So there has been no previous experience of this in Ireland, or indeed in the UK, but international experience would suggest that the process of reconstruction and getting an emergency department back up and running in the face of failed hospital infrastructure takes months rather than weeks.
When you say damaged, has equipment been damaged? Have records been damaged?
Certainly equipment has been damaged. I mean, I can't speak. I haven't been in Letterkenny. I've been on duty in Sligo for the weekend. But my information is that there has been substantial amounts of damage to much of the necessary hospital infrastructure. And remember that to have an emergency department and to have a functioning emergency department, you have to have supporting infrastructure, things like a radiology department, diagnostic imaging department, laboratory, medical records. You know, they're the basic infrastructure that's required for an emergency department to function. So we applaud the huge effort that's taken place in the last few days, but we would have a concern that this is likely to continue for longer than perhaps people might assume.
And at the moment then, how are the contingency arrangements working?
Well, essentially the emergency department in Letterkenny is closed, so patients are either going to Galvin Hospital in Derry or to Sligo. Now, yesterday evening, Galvin reached its capacity, so from then on we've been receiving all ambulance-borne cases from what would normally be the Letterkenny catchment.
It's quite an old trek to Sligo, though.
It is a long trek to Sligo, but at the end of the day, this is about patient safety. So a patient who needs hospital attention or needs hospital admission needs it in the closest possible place. If it's not possible to provide it in Letterkenny, and currently it isn't, that needs to be provided in one of the adjacent hospitals. And both hospitals are working very hard to deal with the additional workload, but it is going to be a challenge for the 2 hospitals. It's also going to be a challenge for patients who are going to have to potentially wait longer to be seen because of the demand on the services. So
what then would you like to hear from the HSE?
I think it's important that they're very clear in telling the public how long this is likely to continue, rather than the impression that is created, which is that this will go on for the rest of this week and that, you know, matters will
in
be
fairness,
resolved.
they have spoken of weeks rather than just 1 week.
Yeah, and I think, you know, this is evolving. I mean, the initial statement suggested that this was a problem that would be resolved within days, and clearly that's not the case. And I think even weeks for some of the reconstruction work, weeks is optimistic. So I think there needs to be regular updates, and the public, and particularly the public in the Letterkenny Hospital catchment area, need to be made aware of what the contingency arrangements are on a day-by-day basis.
Fergal Hickey from the Irish Association of Emergency Medicine, thank you very much indeed for joining us on Morning.